Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where it is 14:13. Oh my dear God, 14. Oh yeah, and that's just perfect. 14:13, as I said now, and it's just about quarter past two in the afternoon, and I just woke up. Yet again, I feel like I'm saying that a lot, even though it's really late in the day. It's actually the afternoon, but yeah, it's unfortunately true. I woke up at well, one, because, well, I slept for like 10 hours, must have been. No, 11 must have been. I think I went to sleep at 2 a.m., woke up at 1 p.m. So, yeah, I slept a lot. But that's just because that's why I like sleeping. It's nice, it's nice. Anyway, talking about yesterday's little experiment. Yeah, the movie, or no, it's not. Like, it's rather a short trailer actually about my Barcelona experience. Just to put that into context, those 2.5 minutes or whatever it is took me like an hour to make. And that's when I had filmed everything. So just the editing process of those 2.5 minutes took me an hour to make. Now, I would yet again blame my technical experience and my technical expertise. That is not the greatest. Uh, you could probably do it a lot faster than I did. Just to, say it bluntly, you could probably do it like 10 times faster if you only know what you're doing, if you have the right equipment, if you have the right knowledge, if you have the know how and all of that. But that's the case with everything, and you got to learn some way, in some manner. Now, more than my extremely inefficiently edited Barcelona trip that I was very happy with actually. It is time for today's little subject. And today's subject, I thought, why not talk about something that is generally confused, and that is data and information. And I know we talked about this in class a while back, and there was many people who knew the difference, but there was, I would say, a surprising amount, like a surprisingly big amount, or a huge amount, or great amount. Not the majority, of course. I at least hope not that it was a majority, but I think there was a lot of people who didn't know what the difference between data and information was, and this is at university level second year, and yeah, it's something that you should know. Now, so what is the difference then? I'm just gonna draw some I'm just gonna read some definitions here. So the meaning of data then, to begin with, is that data is raw, unorganized facts that need to be processed. Data can be something simple and seemingly random and useless until it is organized. An example of this is each student's test score is one piece of data. So, for instance, if I am a student, I'm making a test, I'm getting a result, let's say it's a B, that's just data. That in that alone, without any context, that's data. Now, if we read the meaning or definition rather of information, then when data is processed, organized, structured, or presented in a given context so as to make it useful, it is called information. And an example of this, then, if we build upon the other example, is the average score of a class or of the entire school is information that can be derived from the given data. Doesn't that sound easy? Well, yes, it does in a way, but there is so many people who didn't know the difference about this, and I know that. Well, they knew it when she explained it. At least I really hope that they did, because no one asked any questions. Yet again, something that is happening all the time at university. I would say today that people, when they don't know, they don't ask questions because they don't want to look stupid. Even though, as I've said before, this is a place to fail. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this I cut my own. Well, I was going to cut my own. I was going to cut a baguette yesterday to eat, and it was so dry and so old because I've had it for 2 days, which I thought was, like, reasonable. But it became so hard. So when I tried, I slipped with a knife. I cut my finger, and when I went down to the convenience store and asked for band-aid, I accidentally asked for bandage. That's why I have this rubber band around, because this is just bandage and there's no what do you say, mechanic that makes it fit by its own. So I had to improvise. But anyway, that's that. It's nothing weird with this. Anyway, it's like the smallest cut ever. It's no problem at all. Anyway, going back into information and data, and there was someone who said, "Isn't information something that a human has in their mind?" and data is something that a computer has. And I was like, actually makes sense in a way. And don't get me wrong now, I know that it's wrong because information can be stored at the computer as well as a observation of a data can be stored, so to say, in a mind of a person. But if you think about it, who is adding the context to information? It's us, right? I mean, in some way or another, we have if information is given in a computer, since we don't have artificial intelligence, at least not as I am aware of. No, probably not. um, but let's say that we don't have any artificial intelligence as a baseline. That means that everything that's being put into context, every data that is being processed or everything that's being made has at some point been made or programmed or decided by a person which have used their mind. So in a sense, they have used their own their own mind to construct this programming that is actually transmitting or transforming this data into information. So one can actually say that data, like a computer is storing data, and then by the process that a human has implemented, which means that they've used their minds, transforms it into information. Because it puts it in a context, as I said before, or it processes it, or make it useful in some other way. Now, I know that that's far-fetched, because this person's question was actually, everything that is stored in a computer is data, and everything stored in the mind is information, which is, yeah, well, it is incorrect. So I know that. But if you think about it in the way I thought about it, it actually opens up an interesting discussion of what is actually classed as being stored on the computer. Like, what is the data stored on the computer, and when it is transformed into information, is that because the computer has made it or because we have made it? Well, it's because we have made it. So if it's because we have made it, oh my god, let's just try to keep up. If it is because we've made it, then it is our thoughts that has been programmed or utilized by the computer in order to transform this data into information. Yeah, that's far-fetched if I ever saw one. Anyway, but then you also have the problem with that, or not the problem, but not everything in the mind of a person is information, because we have lots of random facts stored in there. Or if you've ever seen something, like for instance, if you see a bus, let's say something, oh, let's hope that this works. If you see that two people are blipping their cards on a bus, like the bus cards, their annual pass, let's say. That's like data in your mind. But then when you put it into context with how many people are doing that each day, is it the same people? Is there other people who are doing it on the course of a month? How many have you seen? What does this mean? That is making it into information. So you, as a person, can also store data within your mind. It's just that I would argue that more often than not, if a person has data stored in their mind, they would naturally transform it into information by putting it into context, by just using it in thought. So if I'm having a thought process, yet again a process. If I'm having a thought process, I will probably utilize some data that I've observed in reality or observed in everyday life, and that will automatically then be transmitted into information. Will it be useful information, on the other hand? That's a good question. Will it be useful or will it not be useful information? Well, that's only to decide for the one who's going to use the information. And then there's also this question we took up in class, like, is there any information or any data that is useless? And I would argue no. Some people said that, well, yes, because data and information can be obsolete. But I would say, can it really? Just because some data isn't valid anymore doesn't mean that we can't use it in order to get a better understanding to why it's obsolete. You with me on the difference? Let me break it down in another way then. If we have found out that a piece of information is obsolete, some observations maybe they won't work anymore, or a piece of technology, let's say, that is obsolete because something better has come along. I would say that it's still important to have this information that is obsolete, because it is important to analyze it and understand it and view it in a way to understand why it was obsolete to begin with, so that you can both draw on the structure of the obsolete information or data and think about, if this happens in the future, is it something that we're going to learn from and maybe take distance from in the future if we see another information taking this turn. It can also be a good foundation to why something else isn't obsolete. So for instance, if you say something is obsolete, it's because something else is better than it, or something else has replaced it, or it's not going to be used anymore. But in order to understand why in order to understand what is going to be used instead is going to be used, you have to understand why the thing that came before it is not going to be used. You with me? And I know that this might seem complex to some people, and I understand that, but it's just, I don't think I can explain it in a better way right now. But it's just that in order to understand where you're going, you need to know where you've come from. And that's why I would argue that no information and no data will ever be obsolete, or rather will be obsolete, viewed as to be obsolete, but no data will ever be useless. And the same goes for information. The more information and the more data we have, no matter where it comes from, the better we will be at making decisions and making progress. That's my opinion about information and data and the difference between them. And I know that the definition were short, so I tried to give a bit of an explanation on my thoughts on the subject and on the matter. So let's have a nice day, guys, and see you tomorrow. Bye, and enjoy the short Barcelona trip. No hate, please.